Action! The Ace Attorney series has quite a lot of colorful characters in it. Some are epic, some are quirky, and some are quite hateable. But they're all written like that, and that's the beauty of these characters. While I enjoy almost all of these characters, I can only settle for 15 of them, which is really a shame because there are so many good characters. So spoilers as per usual, and as always, I'll be letting you know if someone is from Investigations 2, so you can skip that segment if you don't want that to be spoiled. Okay, starting time, go! A bit of an odd choice, thus his placement only at number 15, but this spot goes to Yuri freaking Cosmos. Holy fuck, this guy is hilarious. The director of the Cosmos Space Center is quite an interesting guy. He doesn't really do all that much to help influence the story, as he's only a witness who testifies on the stand. But he's just so damn glorious that I wanted to put him on here. So, Yuri's the director who was responsible for the HAL-1 rocket launch, which was unfortunately sabotaged. Plus, Athena's mother was killed and an innocent man was sentenced to death. Then years later, when a probe from the HAL-1 returned to Earth, he planned to launch a second rocket, but that one also failed. However, he managed to avert the sabotager at the cost of Apollo's friend Clay. Damn, this guy's seen some shit in his days. But he's surprisingly upbeat despite all that's happened. He's in his own little world saying, "I'ma be the greatest, my name's going down in the books." Not to mention that he also rides on a fucking Segway all the time. He prides himself as being a great man that he's completely oblivious to people mocking him, taking it as if they're praising him to no end. But the guy's hilarity doesn't stop there. He makes one final attempt to escape everything when his Segway malfunctions in what I can call to be one of the greatest breakdowns in the series. Also, aren't we forgetting something? Something that could perhaps be played while he's spinning? Nah, I got nothing. Did you know that Phoenix has a magician daughter who does tricks with her panties? Wow, I never thought I'd say a sentence like that. Trucy right, everyone. Trucy is the adoptive daughter of Phoenix, but is the real daughter of world-famous magician Zach Gramarye. However, when Zach was almost found guilty of murder, he did a disappearing act that caused him to quite literally disappear off the face of the earth for 7 years. With Phoenix's attorney's badge lost and a fatherless Trucy, he decides to take her in where she turns the law office into a talent agency of all things. Phoenix went on to play both the piano and poker, while Trucy went on to continue the Gramarye tradition by doing magic performances on stage with such performances like Mr. Hat.
You go to hell! You go to hell and you die!
No, not that, Mr. Hat! And the previously mentioned magic panties. Those things are so famous that a witness in Turnabout Corner wanted to steal them to discover the trick behind the act for the purpose of science. Well, more like he just wants to sniff them to no end because he ran out of jerking material. She also helps Apollo in court like how Maya does to Phoenix. Only Trucy helped Apollo discover his perceive ability, except she discovered that Apollo has a stronger ability than her. Basically, she could see people's small movements and body language, which helped Phoenix in his poker games. With Apollo being the voice of reason in his game, it's nice to have a goofy character to add some humor in this otherwise pretty dark and serious game. As for her appearance in Dual Destinies, it's not as apparent as in Apollo Justice, but it's still a nice touch. And she's quite adorable as well, just that little oopsie face she makes is sometimes quite cute. Thus her placement at number 14. And speaking of Apollo Justice, it's Mr. Fine himself. With Apollo being the first attorney that you'll be seeing on this list, you'll see that I do quite enjoy the lawyer characters you play as in the games, the defense that you play as most of the time, and the prosecution you face off against. All of these characters are quite amazing, and to start us off is, as previously mentioned, Apollo Justice. I quite enjoyed his game because it gave us a different perspective entirely for the most part. Apollo is one of the funnier characters in the series, especially with him being the voice of reason between Trucy and Phoenix. His reactions to their questionable conversations are quite entertaining, wondering what the hell is going through their minds. And he's always getting flacked for having a shiny forehead and pointy hair, which is always funny. I mean, Jinxie Tenma is always putting those charms on Apollo's face because she thinks he's a demon. lulz. And again in the monstrous turnabout, the poor guy can't get a break because out of nowhere he gets a police officer flipped onto him. Plus he's always yelling, "I'm fine," and bragging about his cords of steel training like it's just as important to him as passing the bar exam. However, his sense of justice, get it, is quite admirable because he takes the same route as Phoenix by believing that his client is innocent. But then in cases 4 and 5 of Dual Destinies, Apollo feels the need to go on his own because his friend, Clay Terran, was killed and he takes it quite personally. But after things get properly figured out, Apollo joins Phoenix again and finds the truth. And as for Apollo's special ability, the perceive function, he was born with the talent to notice extremely small movements in people when they're telling lies. He uses the bracelet around his wrist so that it'll tighten to indicate when someone is lying. And then he examines people closer by looking around their up-close body and then seeing what action they're unintentionally doing on the statement that they're saying. It makes for some pretty interesting results. In conclusion, while Apollo may be my least favorite attorney on the list, he's still a good character overall. Okay, questionable entry, but I still love this guy either way. Shelly Killer, the assassin. If I were to describe this guy in one word, it would be mysterious. Seriously, he's just shrouded in this stuff. What we know about him is that he's the third assassin in the Killer line, which first showed up sometime in the 20th century. He honors himself on trust with his clients so much that he leaves a calling card to tell the police that it was him who did the killing. But if someone were to betray that trust, say framing another person or blackmail against him, then something quite bad happens. i.e. his client becomes his next target. He also has morals with the previous facts mentioned. He's not just some killing machine, he actually takes pride in how professional he is. Such is why the getting an acquittal for one of his clients was so important for him in Farewell My Turnabout. But he's such a professional that he can hide in plain sight, even to the point of having his own shell logo on his jacket and nobody pays mind to it. "Oh, hey guys, it's me, that assassin you've been looking for. I'm just gonna sit here and sell some ice cream while you look for me. Wait, don't I know you from somewhere? My name is John Doe." Alright then, it's not him. But this guy is quite scary also. The fact that he can hide in plain sight like that just gives me the chills, knowing that he might be coming for you. You don't know it, but he might be right there, with a knife, or a rope, or a gun, or a fucking chainsaw to come and end your life. And that's what makes him so good, that he can be anything. One second he's a bellboy, but the next second he's strangling a famous actor. And his theme, the whim of a murderous gentleman, fits him so well. The title speaks volumes because he's just so professional in what he does. The music just says, "I'm a killer, so kindly don't fuck with me." And a couple of things, Capcom. 1. Release Daikikuten Saibon outside of Japan, and 2. Put the first Killer assassin in it. Seriously, it makes way too much sense. Seeing how the infamous line of assassins came to be would be pretty sweet. So yeah, Shelly the Killer, 12th favorite Ace Attorney character. Okay, investigations. How are you? Okay, look, I know we've had our differences, but you're still a good game. Hell, Shilong Lang is the next character on this list. Oh yeah, this guy kicks ass. The Interpol agent who has the highest arrest rate out of any other members is pretty damn cool. So you first meet Lang in the kidnap turnabout, where he pretty much takes over the entire investigation. Okay, gonna go find the kidnapper. Not so fast! Nope, Liangzi says this is my yard now, bitch! However, it's pretty entertaining to see him get frustrated when Edgeworth seems to be one step ahead of him. But then he manages to go over Edgeworth again until the whole thing concludes that Edgeworth was right the entire time, which causes his hate for prosecutors to grow even more. The reason for this is because of what Blaise de Best did to his father, Dailong. Basically, a ruse of events occurred where Lang failed to capture the real criminal, and Blaise put the blame on the police who failed to collect decisive evidence. So this caused Lang to despise prosecutors and not trust the court system altogether, which is why he has the shoot first, ask questions later policy. He pretty much just says, "Ah, fuck it, this person is suspicious. Liangzi says, get in the car, bitch!" But then as Edgeworth manages to find the real truth, he gains respect for him as opposed to just discrediting everything he says because he's who he is. He also has a caring side to the point of remembering the birthday of one of the officer's relatives, plus some other entertaining moments where he begins to argue with Kay as to why the wolf is better than the raven. In the end, Shilong Lang is quite the badass detective. Okay, enough with the badassery. I want to see something cute. Mr. Randon, I'm here. Oh, his little pals, she's so cute! The little cousin of Maya Fey manages to make her way to number 10. Oh my god, Pearl is just so fucking adorable. The way she innocently questions what certain things are and how all these fancy gadgets are like foreign concepts to her. It's not because she's stupid, but because she's been sheltered and is unaware of pretty common things like trains and pizzas. But because of how unaware she is, it can make for some pretty hilarious lines of dialogue. Like how she ran all the way from her village to the courthouse because she didn't know what a bus was. Other funny lines of dialogue would be when she's constantly slapping Phoenix just because he's standing next to another woman, thinking that he's cheating on Maya, who she thinks is his special someone. Then she goes on to call Gumshoe Mr. Scruffy Detective because Francisca was calling the big guy that. But when someone she cares about is in trouble, she does everything she can to help them. She misses Maya quite a lot when she gets kidnapped in Farewell My Turnabout, showing legit care by staying up all night just to help in the search of finding her. Also, she tries to go out of her way by making a salad for Gumshoe, where the result being that there's no lettuce. Aw, just so adorbs. However, when she returns in Dual Destinies, she lost 0% of her cuteness. But with that cuteness comes power. Despite only being 8 in Justice for All, she has the spirit channeling powers of a master. She can channel people at will like it's nothing, and it's actually kinda scary. The fact that she has such powers could be used for evil things, like a plan to take out Maya, for example. She's still adorable. Cute powers, activate! I'm not really sure I want to do this anymore.
Do it!
But people are gonna get mad at me.
Just do it!
I don't think I can really go through with this.
Yes, you can!
Okay, fine. Number 9 is Miles Edgeworth. Oh shit, I can feel the hate coming now because the great and mighty Edgeworth barely scratches the surface of the top 10. Well then, time to overly praise him before someone tries to murder me. So, Edgeworth is often considered one of the best Ace Attorney characters because of how well developed he is, or the fact that he's just motherfucking Edgeworth, so he's best character. And I agree. I mean, not only did we get to play as him in Bridge to the Turnabout for a short while, but he got not 1, but 2 whole games all to himself, where the second game was only released in Japan. Yay! But since I've actually played both, I can say that they are more than worth your time. Despite what I've said previously about Investigation, it's still pretty solid and should be played by any fans of the series. Now then, back to Edgeworth. He's a prosecutor who started his soon-to-be illustrious career at the young age of 20 under the apprenticeship of Manfred von Karma. And through his way of thinking, Edgeworth only sought the guilty verdict and did anything to get it, even through the likes of back-end deals and forged evidence. And the reason he thought this was because his father was killed and the supposed suspect got declared not guilty. So von Karma took Edgeworth in and raised him to be the guilty-seeking prosecutor he was. But it took facing off against Phoenix in court twice, both with a not guilty verdict in the end, and being in the defendant's chair himself to realize that only getting a victory isn't the important factor in a trial. After von Karma was found out, Edgeworth began to question what it really means to be a prosecutor, to the point of saying Miles Edgeworth chooses death. Of course, he didn't die, but he left the office and went on a journey to discover what it truly meant to be a prosecutor. And as the games went on, you face off against a different prosecutor each time. Even though it is a nice change of pace, it's still always awesome when he does show up. One moment it's, I'll whip you, the next it's like, my cravat says otherwise. And as for his roles in investigations, it's nice to get this different point of view, seeing how Edgeworth, and thus a prosecutor, thinks, plus getting more development towards him and truly seeing where Phoenix is coming from. However, I just think that the next 8 Ace Attorney characters are better. So let's just see who those figures are. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome everyone's favorite burger-loving spirit medium, Maya Fey! Oh baby, we got the adorable but determined sidekick to Phoenix who is just so incredibly likable, also being the younger sister of Mia Fey and the older cousin of Pearl. So Maya's first met at the beginning of Turnabout Sisters, where she's accused of murdering Mia. She tells you of her tragic past and how Mia was the only family she had left. Her mother had vanished without a trace, her father is dead, and now her big sister is the victim of a murder that she's being framed for. But after being proven innocent, she went on to accompany Phoenix during his trials, which would lead to some very heartwarming, entertaining entertaining or tragic moments. Tragic being that she's been accused of crimes on 2 other separate occasions, one for another murder and the other for turning Professor Layton into a gold statue. Geez, poor girl can't catch a break. And other tragic moments include her aunt conspiring against her and trying to get her killed, getting kidnapped to get a killer off the hook, and seeing her own mother get killed right in front of her without any knowledge of who she really was. But despite all of this shit that's happened to her, she still manages to put on that charming smile of hers and be as entertaining as possible, like always bringing up burgers at the most appropriate or inappropriate times. And as for heartwarming moments, the scene where Maya hugged her sister for the first time in so long was pretty nice to see, especially for the fact that she was using Mia's boobs as a pillow, am I right? But seriously, Maya's one of the most likable characters in the entire series because of how optimistic she is. Her personality is just absolutely amazing, and one of the 2 Ace Attorney characters I personally see myself as. Who that other person is, we'll get to them later. 'Tis the walking contradiction himself, the prosecutor who was convicted for a crime that he did not commit, Simon Blackwell. The badass samurai prosecutor manages to slice his way onto the list, I guess? So, Simon is quite the character. He's a British convict who uses mind games to trick his opponents. Whether it be making the defense think that he's on their side only to stab them in the back and bring some new damning evidence to hurt their case, or just fucking threaten to murder them, which he then proceeds to laugh hysterically at everyone else's suffering. I mean, for Christ's sake, he's constantly cutting off that one piece of Phoenix's hair that sticks out so much. But despite putting on this intimidating and violent persona, he's actually a very caring person, even to the point of taking the fall for a murder that he didn't commit, which resulted in the death penalty in order to protect someone. And for 7 years, he remained in prison, constantly denying his innocence because he thought that Athena killed her own mother. But after those 7 years, he was allowed to prosecute again in order to catch the mysterious super spy, the Phantom. And what luck too, because in Turnabout for Tomorrow, it was literally 1 day before his execution date that he was proven innocent of his crime. But as for how he operates in court, not only does he do the previously mentioned psychological tricks, but he brings his pet hawk Taka in with him to not only bring evidence, but also occasionally attack people. And when things get serious, Simon will break out of his shackles, and in short, he's basically saying, you're fucked. Also, as I said in my attorneys and prosecutors list, Simon is basically the 3 main trilogy prosecutors rolled into one. An awesome British guy like Edgeworth, he attacks people and gets away with it like Von Karma, and constantly makes metaphors that not everyone understands like Gatto. Plus him calling the judge your baldness and Detective Fulbright Foolbright puts some Klavier Gavin in him. Also, is it just me, or is this a possible preview of prosecutors in Daigikuten Saiban? Those guys are carrying swords, and he's always throwing a bladeless one. So, Simon Blackwell ancestor for prequel game confirmed. Okay, this may seem like an extremely questionable choice, but I don't really care. Number 6 is the Judge. The old man who doesn't even have a name and is easily persuaded by others makes it up quite high. He has a lot of, I guess, old man moments. When these do show up, they are absolutely priceless. Seriously, the guy spent an entire day looking for his dentures, only to later find that they were in his mouth the whole time. If that doesn't substantiate to I'm getting kind of old, then I have no clue what does. Seriously, what the hell is up with Ace Attorney and old men? Why are they always so hilarious? This guy, Damon Gant, Victor Kudo, Amir Punchenbog, and Yuri Cosmos. And then there's times when the judge begins to take personal offense to the slightest mention of him being bald, which can be quite entertaining as well. Hell, Phoenix's wrong answer to pointing out where Max's bust is in Turnabout Big Top, where he accuses the judge of having it, is hilarious. He gives him a penalty, and then proceeds to give him another that, unless you have full health, will end the game automatically. But as it's said, he always manages to hand down the correct verdict. Maybe it's because he's so easily swayed by what one side says, but I digress. Seriously, the guy can change opinions so easily. Okay, if there are no objections, then I'm gonna find this person guilty.
Objection!
Not guilty. But there is one question I have to ask. How old is this guy? Seriously, he looks like he's in his 60s, but the game never explicitly says. Sure, there's the whole 1971 or earlier bit, but I hardly believe that. I don't know, just seemed like a guy in his 40s wouldn't have that much of a gray beard and no hair on his head entirely. And the fact that he looks exactly the same in Dual Destinies as he does in the first game is quite impressive. Despite the guy being old, he hasn't aged a single day. Quite ironic, yes? Even though he may not have that much character development, hell, we don't even know what his first name is. There's something that just spoke to me to put him as high as I have. He's just so funny that he deserves placement somewhere on here, to me at least. Like gum on your shoe, he's impossible to get rid of. But this kind of gum you actually want to hang around because of how likable it is. It's Gumshoe! I love this guy. I really do. The big lug is just so likable in every way. He has that aroma of crappy but awesome kind of person in him. He's not exactly the best detective, in fact he was fired 2 times, but he tries his damn hardest to be the best he can be. He still manages to put on that smile despite getting his pay cut to the point where he can't even afford to buy instant noodles off of the past sell date aisle. Spoiler for Investigations 2, Gumshoe gets a raise. I do have to give credit to the guy for managing to live under the conditions he does and still have a positive attitude about helping Phoenix or Edgeworth. Sure, he can have some stupid moments. The guy wanted to show an 8-year-old a pistol to try and cheer her up. But that's what makes him such a great character. Sometimes him being so stupid is a relief. It's nice to have another comedic character in a rather dark series of games. He's keeping the spirits up by acting kinda stupid, but it's all for the best intentions. Seriously, when Edgeworth simply mentions logic, Gumshoe goes on to question it. I'm sure that explains a lot. And it's always nice to see Gumshoe show up in most of the games for old time's sake. Whether it be his first appearance in Turnabout Sisters to his only appearance in Apollo Justice, seeing him is always a joy because you know he's gonna have something good to say. Too bad he didn't show up in Dual Destinies though. I really wonder what he'd look like rendered in 3D. And I'd say out of all the name puns that the characters in the series have, his has to be my favorite. His full name is Dick Gumshoe, and he's a detective. Dick and Gumshoe are words that are associated with detective. Oh, Capcom, you glorious bunch of bastards. But I just love how caring the guy can be too. He looks out for Edgeworth constantly, even to the point where he's willing to lose his job to help him not quit from being a prosecutor. He also tends to keep an eye on Maggie Bird quite a bit. He makes her a bunch of weenies and would even risk being accused of murder just so she couldn't. This guy, he's just so awesome. Keep on being you, Gumshoe. Be the best noodle slurping pal that we all love. Remember when I said that Maya was one of the 2 characters that I see myself as? Well, here's the second person. Now, I bet there are quite a number of you who don't even know who this guy is. Well, I don't blame you. He is from Investigations 2 and all. Oh, then I guess I'll explain as to why Ray Shields is such an amazing character. First off, his personality. Oh my god, this guy is funny as hell. He's always offering hugs to people, whether it be through introduction or just a casual run-in with one of his friends, until he gets one-upped and smooched by a prison warden. Hell, this guy ate his own notes as a teenager to fully understand them better. I don't think anything gets the job done in terms of comedy more than this does. He even goes from helping Edgeworth solve a murder case to randomly offering chocolate to everyone. But the way that he's just so caring about others is another great quality of him. He worked with Gregory Edgeworth back when he was alive as his assistant in order to become a defense attorney. And the way he takes his client's case is that he defends people who have pretty much already been proven guilty, as opposed to Phoenix Wright. But he does this in order to get them a less harsh verdict. As I said previously, Ray had worked with Edgeworth's dad on several cases, but his last one was the IS-7 incident, where the famous pastry chef Jeff Master had falsely been accused of murder, as per usual Ace Attorney fare. But after Gregory's death, Ray took over the Edgeworth law offices and tried to appeal Jeff's case, but failed at doing so. And due to Von Karma's attitude in court that he saw, he came to dislike him and anyone who followed his way, especially Edgeworth now that he became a prosecutor under Von Karma's views. And in the imprisoned Turnabout, he met Edgeworth once again and still had the impression that he followed Von Karma's policies. But after he proved himself, Ray finally began to like Edgeworth a lot more. Even after he loses his prosecutor's badge, Ray offers Edgeworth a job as a defense attorney at his office. That's how much respect he gained for Edgeworth in such a short period of time. And how he's always referring to it as your old man's place is quite a nice touch. I'm not sure, but the scene where he tips his hat to the pictures of him and both the Edgeworths is just really heartwarming. Also, I love this guy's theme. Joking motive fits him to a T. He's a laid-back and playful guy, and this theme just suits him quite nicely. It's because of these qualities, plus him being a defense attorney, that I see myself in him. Because if I had to choose between being a prosecutor and a defense attorney, I'd be the latter. Tip your own fedoras in respect of this man. I don't even need to introduce this person. Phoenix Wright, everyone. Oh, but of course the title character himself would make it up high. Okay, most of you probably expected him to not be number 3 due to his placement on my attorneys and prosecutors list, but things change. However, that doesn't matter because Phoenix Wright is one of the greatest characters out of any video game series ever. From his first appearance in a courtroom as the defendant, to his very first trial as a defense attorney, to returning to the courts after losing his badge. At the end of the day, he's still great, except in Apollo Justice. He was a bit of a douchebag in that. Aside from that, he is such an amazing character, protecting the innocent because he genuinely believes in them. He does this due to him being so moved by something that Edgeworth did for him back in grade school. When Phoenix was accused of stealing Edgeworth's money, Edgeworth himself came to Phoenix's defense because there was no definitive proof that Phoenix had done it. This alone caused Phoenix to want to become a defense attorney. Because he'd been in the same position before, he wanted to be there for others. And what influenced this even further was when he was defended by Mia Fey. He was so touched by what she did that when he became a defense attorney, he went to work for Mia at her law firm. And over the years, he's helped so many defenseless people from being falsely convicted. From his troublemaking best friend Larry Butts to Mia's little sister Maya, and even the rival to what he does, Miles Edgeworth. And through these trials and tribulations, get it, he helped the prosecutors that face off against him realize the errors of their ways. With Edgeworth, it's not about the guilty verdict. With Francisca, it's, with Gatto, it's that he's the one to blame for all his misdeeds, and with Simon, it's helping him escape from his death. The guy even made it in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and he has one of the best fighting finishers I've ever seen in my life. You can beat up Dr. Doom if you wanted to! But even with all of these qualities of helping the defenseless, being one of the greatest lawyers in all of fictional media, and just being an amazing character in general, I still prefer 2 characters over him. Oh, Athena! I love her so much. She's top tier waifu material. Ah! If you couldn't tell, I love Athena. She's every weeaboo's dream to have in their life, and she's such a great character that I don't even know where to start. I mean, there's so much to say, but I won't keep you here forever, so I guess personality. Athena is just so adorable. The way she's always smiling is just so cute. Plus, the way she shifts from one emotion to another is hilarious. Her humor just adds to her likability, and her ability to help people makes her even better. She introduces analytical psychology into the court system, where you can listen to someone's testimony and see what emotions they were feeling when they said it. And the way that her new ability in Dual Destinies works is that all 4 emotions, happy, sad, angry, and surprised, show up, and you have to pinpoint which one doesn't exactly fit. It's hard to decide whether I prefer the mood matrix or the logic chess ability as my favorite gimmick. But Athena's willing to help and do her damn best despite being a rookie attorney. Hell, she's really good at her job, being of the utmost professional level. Not as good of an attorney as Phoenix, but she still pulls off more than well. As an attorney, I prefer Phoenix, but as a character, Athena is just better for me. And as for her backstory, it's quite tragic. Her hearing is what allows her to notice the differences in people's moods. But when she was younger, it was way too overbearing for her. In fact, she knew that Simon wasn't guilty because his heart was speaking out that he didn't do it. But no one really knew what she was talking about, so he was found guilty anyways. And the entire reason why Athena became a defense attorney in the first place was to get Simon acquitted of his charges, which she successfully managed to do with the help of Phoenix and Apollo. And I hope that we get to play as her more other than in just one case in the future. Seriously, Capcom, make Athena Sykes Ace Attorney! It would be so cool! Please, you can have my money! Please? Please! Prepare yourselves for the shock of the century, because my favorite Ace Attorney character of all time is Winston Gatto! I know, big shock. Gatto's my favorite. Fucking didn't see that coming. But guess what? I don't care. Gatto is fucking glorious. That mask on his face, the white hair, the green suit, his two themes, and that coffee addiction. All just small aspects that make up the great character of Diego Armando. He has one of the best backstories, he develops extremely well, and he has plenty of hilarious, emotional, and glorious moments in the entire series. To start, his backstory. Gato wasn't always a prosecutor, he was actually a defense attorney by the name of Diego Armando, also being in a relationship with Mia Fey, and it was him who taught me the phrase, the only time a lawyer can cry is when it's all over. But after an incident where the defendant killed himself and the accused Dahlia Hawthorne got away, Diego then tried to get an interview with her, but little did he know that it would lead to him getting poisoned and falling into a coma. But then, 5 years later, he woke to the smell of coffee only to find out that his hair had turned white, most of his vision was screwed up, no one was there waiting for him when he did wake up, the lawyer he respected so much had been killed, the woman he despised so much had been put away not by his own hands, and someone he came to dislike had went on to not only solve Mia's murder, but continue living his life as a successful attorney. Gato then threw away his identity as a defense attorney and became a prosecutor just for the sole purpose that he could face off against Phoenix in a trial. He purposefully calls Phoenix trite, throws coffee on his face, which is extremely hilarious when he does, and constantly confuses him with all his metaphors relating to life, coffee, or whatever crazy shit he may come up with. He's just got so many memorable quotes that it's not even funny, and his regular theme, the fragrance of dark coffee, is extremely fitting for him. It sums up his addiction of 17 fucking cups of coffee per trial for him. But his second theme, the more tragic one, the bitter taste of truth, is my favorite song in the entire Ace Attorney series. It sums up the tragedy that Gato has been through all his life, and the pain he goes through as he sees Phoenix being himself. But in Bridge to the Turnabout, Gato is revealed to be behind the murder of Misty Fey, and proving that he did it was extremely difficult for me and a lot of people, I imagine, because of how much I love Gato. Even though he still was the killer in the end, I don't really like counting him as a villain because, in a sense, he was doing this to save Maya from being murdered herself. And when all is resolved, Gato utters one of my favorite quotes in all form of media. In my world, the color red doesn't exist. These must be my tears. The fact that Gato knows it's all over, and it was he himself that he couldn't forgive, and not Phoenix. And that by resulting in Phoenix proving that Gato had killed Misty Fey, he had finally been saved. Being proven guilty of a murder was the best thing that could have happened to him. You can say what you want about him. You can say that he's overrated. You can say you didn't like his character. You can even say that he's an undeserving, selfish asshole who gets way too much praise. But that's not gonna stop me from loving Gato forever. Even though we may never see him again, he's still going to live on in my heart forever. Thank you for viewing another countdown of Ace Attorney Month. Even though I've already covered this topic, I still wanted to do it on a broader spectrum. If you liked the video, giving it a like would be most appreciated, and if you want to come back for more, subscribing would help. As always, have a grand day and go drink some coffee. 17 cups in one sitting should do it.